So there's my plywood side panel for the forward portion of the back of the 4Runner. So yeah, I think that's going to fit. I just took the factory panel out, laid it down on a piece of plywood and traced it out and then cut it. And I marked a number of holes. I won't use all the holes that were in the factory panel, just mainly the ones around the outside along the top. 2 down the front there, then there's 1 there, and then I'll use the 1 bolt down below that attached the rear seat belt. And then I've got the 2 holes up the side. Once I get all the holes lined up, I'll trace down the edge of the plywood on the existing plywood panel there, and then I'll trim that one short, because otherwise it's going to be like a 1/2 inch thick there where the 2 sheets of plywood overlap. And then I have the cutout for the box. This was getting chewed up by the sun here. You could dig into that plastic with your fingernail. So I sprayed it with some enamel paint and let that dry, and then I hit it with a couple coats of Herculiner spray, and that should fit right in there. Just pop right into the hole. That fits. And then I got the seat belt part up front. I got that dialed in. All I did then was I cut a slot through to the front of the plywood, so that way I can just split the plywood apart and slide the belt through the slot. That way it makes it easy to pull this thing in and out, because otherwise you have to take the seat belt mechanism off. And that's a lot of work. And then the one thing I need to do here, that's the cables and whatnot running to my backup camera and my open auto head unit. And with the factory panel, it was flexible and bent enough that I could run the wires behind it. So I'm going to cut a slot down that pencil line about 1/2 inch or 5/8 wide. So yeah, I'll be able to run those wires down through that slot and then into the recess back there. And then over the slot, I'll put another piece of plywood, glue it on. Yeah, and then on the front panel, I got my slot cut there for the wires. So it's a little wiring chase that I can run my cables down. So I have the cable that goes up to the rear view mirror. It's got the video and power and all that. And then there's the GPS antenna cable that goes down and connects into the little junction box down there. And then the gray silver cable is a Cat 5 cable that I have run up to my open auto head unit. Now, I was going to make this cover piece a little bit smaller, but it turns out the B pillar right here, because it's structural, it kind of sticks out, and the panel makes a pretty decent bend right there. It probably bends in, probably at least 1/2 inch towards the front. So there's a lot of bending stress right there. And so what I did was I put the slot in where the wires are going to run, but then I made the plywood piece wide enough to go past that bolt hole, because I was just afraid that it would just crack right there. So that way this bolt will hold the thing flat there, and then that bolt will start the curve, and then there's a bolt up in the front to finish off the curve. Everything fits nice once you tighten everything down, but there's quite a bit of stress right there. I just need to give it another coat of this. I put some waterproofing stain on it, and then I'll put my dark brown paint over that. Seals up the wood a little bit, and it's kind of a rough finish, so it makes a nice base for the exterior paint over the top. Stay tuned for updates, and as always, thanks for watching.